Hello and welcome to New Central Television. I am Likon Obanjo. The top stories at this hour. Wanted suspects in assault on Rivers local government administrator surrender to the police. Aliko Dangote casts doubt on the revival of Nigeria's state-owned refineries in Port Harcourt, Warri and Kaduna. Kenya's electoral commissioner sworn in ahead of 2027 polls. Details to come your way shortly. We begin in Rivers State, where two top officials declared wanted by the police for their alleged involvement in a physical assault of the administrator of Ahoada East local government area of Rivers State, Goodluck Iheanachor, have submitted themselves to the police. Recall that the police had accused the chief security officer of the local government area, Hector Ekakita, and the chief of staff, Aloni Olodi, of leading about 30 youths who invaded the council headquarters about 3 weeks ago and allegedly beat up the local government administrator. The assailants, according to the police, also carted his mobile phone, some vital documents in his office, and forced him to sign a letter of resignation, which they placed in front of him. To judicial matters now. 1 year after the Supreme Court's landmark ruling granting full financial autonomy to Nigeria's 774 local governments, the judgment is yet to be enforced. Despite the court's directives stopping state governments from controlling council funds, allocations are still not being paid directly. The July 2024 ruling followed a suit by the federal government seeking to end decades of state interference. A 10-member committee was set up to enforce the decision, but political and bureaucratic delays have allegedly stalled progress. Now, joining me to discuss the implications of the delay and the disobedience of the Supreme Court ruling on local government autonomy is the Executive Director, Sterling Center for Law, Deji Ajari. Thank you so much, Deji, for joining us on the news.
Thank you so much for having me. Good evening.
You're welcome. Now, Nigeria's federal executive is yet to comply with a Supreme Court judgment over local government financial autonomy. Is that not contempt of court?
Absolutely, I quite agree with you. Yes, it is contemptuous of the executive not to comply with the judgment of the Supreme Court regarding the autonomy of local governments. But then again, of course, the government is going to explain away its actions by saying it's only merely putting the structures in place. It's taking its time to put in structures in place to ensure a seamless functioning of the autonomy has been conferred on the local government. But then again, I think it may not necessarily be correct that is what is happening. I think there's quite a lot of politicking that is being done with the issue of autonomy. And that's quite sad, because when this government came in and took up the issue of autonomy all the way to the Supreme Court, it gave quite a lot of those of us who really thought that indeed the local government deserves autonomy and who have been clamoring for it all along all these years. It gave quite a lot of us hope that indeed this is eventually going to happen. But unfortunately, it looks like the government has allowed, once again, just like in the past, allowed the issue of autonomy of the local governments to become embroiled in its own politics. And unfortunately, no one can really say how this is going to end until it really ends, because from all indications, the government seems to be too busy, too engaged with the politicking for 2027 rather than actual actions on ground right now.
Okay, so since we're seeing a refusal to honor a court ruling over this matter, there should be consequences, don't you believe?
Well, unfortunately, if there are going to be consequences, there is someone has to bring it to the attention of the court that this is what is happening. The court is not going to act so moto, especially since it is not contempt that is permitted in the face of the court. Someone will have to move, and quite naturally, the person who is supposed to move is the person who is who is actually guilty of contempt. Because ordinarily, it should be the Attorney General of the Federation who should be doing this. But then again, who are you going to blame for non-implementation of the autonomy that was conferred on the local government in the Constitution and as affirmed by the Supreme Court last year?
But then what does the federal government stand to gain? Because you talked about the politicization of this financial autonomy to local governments. What is it that the government at the federal level is trying to gain by stalling on obeying this order?
Well, at the risk of being wrong, I'm going to tell you quite clearly, you know that a lot of the governors are not happy with that development. A lot of the governors do not want the local government to strictly control their own finances. They still want to run the show for the local government. So you know that certainly the state governors are going to be definitely putting in and be negotiating with the federal government on how, to go about this whole autonomy thing, especially since it is like novel in this current political experience. And so there's going to be quite a lot of trading going on. And I suspect that indeed that's what's going on at the moment. And of course, you are also aware that there are some other issues too in the states regarding the proprietary of the sitting local government chairman. In Osun, you have that. In Rivers, you had that, and so on. Just resolved one in Edo State. APC is deeply invested in all of these states, in Osun, in Edo, in Rivers State. So quite naturally, these interests are varied. There are plenty, but I believe very strongly it is all of these interests that are definitely at play and stalling the full and comprehensive implementation of the autonomy of the local governments.
Okay, so Deji, though this is not part of the Apex Court's decision, should the local government also probably comply with the CBN requirement to submit a 2-year audited financial reports before accounts for payments are open for them? I mean, that's one of the criteria being placed before them.
Yeah, well, yes, of course, but you see, it's the voice of Jacob and the
hand of Esau.
Voice of Jacob and the body of Esau. The point is that you find even in quite a lot of these states, what are the local government authorities saying? A lot of them are rejecting the autonomy that was conferred, that is constitutionally conferred on them. They are rejecting it. What does that tell you? It tells you the governors are still controlling the machinery of the local government, and the governors do not want it to happen. So quite naturally, whatever they need to do to comply with they will not do it. The states, if assuming that was even part of the Supreme Court decision, it would not be done. But at the end of the day, trust me, it's all going to be all about politics at the end of the day. And it is the man who has the most to lose, or who has the most that is at the end of the going to end up giving up on this issue of local government autonomy, which is sad, really, because we had a glorious opportunity to really correct over two decades of anomaly here, but that opportunity may once again be lost.
All right, Deji Ajare, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. In the meantime, following his affirmation by the Supreme Court as the duly elected governor of Edo State, Governor Monday Okpewolo has arrived in Benin City to a rousing welcome by party loyalists, government officials and Jubilant residents. Supporters flooded the Benin airport from as early as 8 a.m., singing, dancing and waving party flags to celebrate what they describe as the triumph of democracy and the will of the people. A 5-member panel of the Apex Court in the lead judgment delivered by Justice Lawal Garba had held that the appellants failed to prove their case of overvoting, non-compliance with the Electoral Act, among other infractions, which they cited as grounds to fault the electoral victory of Oklahoma. In a unanimous judgment, the Apex Court held that with the submission before it, Ighodalo was not duly elected by the majority of lawful votes cast. Still talking politics, the chieftain of the People's Democratic Party, Bala Chiroma, has allayed the fears of his party's supporters that the new party coalition of the African Democratic Congress would be a threat to the ruling PDP in the 2027 election in Bauchi State. In an exclusive interview with journalists in Bauchi, Chiroma, who is equally the senior special assistant on youth to Governor Bala Mohammed, said ADC can never be a threat to PDP in Bauchi or even in Nigeria. According to him, ADC is not a party like its counterpart, the All Progressives Congress. It is just like a union or an association, as their name implies, an alliance of political parties, but not a party like the People's Democratic Party with its complete structures in all the 774 local government area councils. Mrs. Boni Aruna. Earlier on the news, we had David Godwin, who shared his insights on this.
I think Nigerians have moved past the issue of PDP and their continuous, chaos and squabbles, so to speak. So the issue of ADC being a threat to PDP does not even come to play, because as far as we are concerned, even though I'm a PDP member, but we like to tell ourselves the truth as always. So those saying that ADC is not a threat to PDP are those people that are still living in the figment of their imaginations, or possibly because from where they are sitting, they do not have that vantage, view to see what is currently happening in the polity in Nigeria. As far as we are concerned, as far as Nigerians are concerned, they have moved past the shenanigans of the PDP, and the ADC is now the leading opposition party and the leading voice of the opposition parties in Nigeria. Those who are in bed with the ruling All Progressive Congress, I think they have come to this conclusion or some sort of, arrangement to incubate the People's Democratic Party ahead of 2031. And this is the game. And it is playing out for us to see. A situation where some of the chieftains of the PDP go on air to tell Nigerians that, look, we are going to support Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2027, regardless of whether or not our political party, which is PDP, produces a presidential candidate in 2027. It means there is no hope for the party. That's what it means.
We'll now go on a break on the news. When we return, police arraign 22 over attack on wedding guests in Plateau State. We'll tell you more in a short while. You join us then. Many thanks for staying with us. And now we look at the energy sector. President of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, has cast doubt on the revival of Nigeria's state-owned refineries in Port Harcourt, Warri and Kaduna, describing them as economically unviable despite consuming over $18 billion. Dangote said efforts to revive the aging facilities amount to modernizing 40-year-old technology. He also said over 50% of output from his 650,000 barrels per day refinery is dedicated to petrol, far higher than the government refineries. Dangote's remarks echo earlier comments by former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who said the NNPC could not manage the refineries. Industry groups are now urging the government to privatize the facilities or scrap them entirely and support modular refining instead. To discuss this, we're joined by a senior partner, Argentile Capital Partners, Femi Olodi. Femi, thank you so much for coming around on the news.
Hi, Aliko. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's nice to have you around too. Now, NNPC refineries, according to what we understand, may never function again, according to Aliko Dangote, after spending $18 billion to repair. Was there any time that you had the conviction that these refineries would work and would work for a long time?
Look, you guys have, you keep history of our chats, right, or our conversations. I want to believe that you would actually go and check one of the histories, and there's a place where I said that I would eat my shirt on national TV if those refineries worked, or to the extent that we thought they would. Look, the truth is that you can't leave refineries without turnaround maintenance, without the right level of spending in keeping them running for such a long time, and expect that you come in, spend a few million or $1 billion, and the refineries become optimized and optimal. It's very difficult. Refineries are such complex, complex facilities that you can't afford for them to go down for a long period of time and then expect that you're just going to go in there and restart it. Even for your car, you can't do that. Now imagine something as complex as a refinery. I wouldn't say that they would never work, but I would say that getting those refineries optimized, especially in the state they are in right now, will be extremely difficult and would require significant levels of investment and stop-starts. And honestly, that hasn't changed. My views are still exactly what they were when we spoke about this, and nothing has changed.
Well, just like Nigeria Air, the truths are always there in the open. Nigeria would ask questions, and you see these handlers of these projects, those in these spaces, still come out to insist that these things would work or it would happen, or they give these false assurances. What was it that NNPCL was trying to cover? And when we have things like this occur all the time, what does it say about the Nigerian system?
So, Aliko, I think that what we've seen, in fairness, is effectively multiple failures by the NNPC to accomplish what they set out to accomplish. But I would also say that what you're seeing today is a more transparent management team than what we had in the prior administration or the prior management team that ran NNPC. The current managers of NNPC have promised transparency and honesty. And I believe to some extent that that's what we're seeing now, in the fact that we're getting information at least on the actual state of those refineries and what we should expect to get from them. I don't believe in any way that there is not the need to have increasingly more investment in the refineries before they can get to work. I also think that Dangote is flying the kite now, knowing that he's found himself in a position of strength, being the only one who's able to control volumes, and he's become very disruptive in the market. So I don't think that it was intentional from an NPC, for example, to say, look, let's go and mislead the people. And I believe that of their own good intentions, they felt that the refineries were in a state where they could get them back to work. And I believe that they may have received technical, confirmation from the people who they brought in to do the turnaround maintenance, that it was in a state where it could work. But like I said at the beginning of this conversation, a refinery isn't something that you're going to play games with. It's either working or it's not. And what we've seen for the ones that the NNPC has spent billions of dollars trying to turn around is that they're not working.
Now, would it have been a better option?
And so you asked the question as to what does that mean for us as a people?
Okay.
The reality is that, look, these governments have never been honest with us as Nigerians. I don't think there's anything shocking in there. I would actually say probably the current government is the most transparent we've ever seen when it comes to the state of our finances. And there is still some level of opaqueness that we're still dealing with in there. So I would say that, look, the Nigerian system has birthed this kind of opportunities for people with other than honorable intentions to become leaders or to grow within the government space, and they are only in this for themselves, rather than for the Nigerian people.
All right, so instead of expending $18 billion to refurbish moribund refineries, would it have been a better option as at then if the Nigerian government and NNPCL had looked at building a new refinery, one that can compete with the Dangote refinery?
Look, the truth is that the first question we need to ask is, does NNPC have any business actually owning refineries in today's world? If you look at the biggest oil producers in the world, very few of them are investing in refineries. Refineries are low-margin businesses that you need significant levels of efficiency to be able to unlock value from. And, you know, the NNPC has not been able to do that. Let's go back to the fact that, you know, 18 years ago, President Obasanjo, when he was leaving, had sold these refineries, and President Yar'Adua, having been misled by the then NNPC management team, recovered the refineries from Dangote, who they had sold it to. Perhaps if they had left the Port Harcourt refinery and probably the Warri refinery with Dangote, private sector investment would have turned it around. The truth is, right now, NNPC's focus should be in growing Nigerian reserves, increasing our production, so that we can actually meet or exceed our OPEC quotas, you know, and just ensuring that we unlock the hydrocarbons that are in the ground. Leave the refinery or the refining of these products to the private sector, who seem more competent, who seem, you know, better funded to continue to run these businesses. I do not believe that the NNPC should actually be spending any dollar on refining. What we should be doing today is selling those refineries as is, and hopeful that, you know, some private sector investors are able to put cash in it to be able to get them back working and competing with Dangote.
Okay, so I was going to ask that, but you already answered. So thank you so much, Femi Olade, for sharing your thoughts with us on the news.
Always a pleasure.
In the meantime, the Nigerian Senate has clarified it never accused the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited of stealing 210 trillion naira, but insists the company must fully account for the staggering figure reflected in its financial statements. Chairman of the Senate Committee on Public Accounts, Senator Ahoada, made the clarification following the rescheduling of an investigative hearing due to the absence of the Group Chief Executive Officer of the NNPCL. He explained that the demand stems from discrepancies in the company's audited financial records, especially liabilities and assets that appear inconsistent and unjustified.
There was never a period that this committee said NNPC stole 210 trillion. But this committee said, and it still stands by it, NNPC must account for 210 trillion. You submitted through your audited financial statement an account that is not net off. An account that is not net off does not give the needed and required meaning anywhere. Sure. Neither the liability side nor the asset side can be accepted, because it is not the responsibility of anybody to net off your account. It is your responsibility.
Anybody who is too big to obey the Nigerian Constitution should relocate. This committee combines the powers to do what we are doing. Those powers are derived from the express provisions of the law. And if you fail to comply, we have our options, including the power to arrest, the power to prosecute, and the power to expose. The fact that those who were there when this has happened are no longer there does not give you a shield. You do need to consult your legal department to appreciate, so that you don't find yourself unwittingly into a pit hole. Because this committee must be respected, and if you don't respect it, you will be worse for it.
And now to security matters. 22 suspects have been arraigned before an High Court 10 in Jos Plateau State, following a mob attack on wedding guests traveling from Zaria to Kwampan. Plateau State Police Commissioner Emmanuel Adeshino confirmed that the arrests were made during a joint security operation. News Central's Chizoba Anyonwe tells us more.
In June, in the Mangon district of Mango local government area, a tragic incident occurred. A group of travelers from Kaduna State en route to a family wedding reportedly lost their way and ended up in the area. Unfortunately, their arrival coincided with tensions following a deadly attack, allegedly by suspected gunmen that claimed 6 lives in Mangu. What followed was a mob attack by irate youth on the unsuspecting visitors. In response, President Bola Tinubu gave a marching order for the attackers to be identified and prosecuted. Now, weeks later, 22 suspects are in court, a direct outcome of that presidential directive.
After the victims were rescued, we launched a comprehensive investigation into the matter. The state CID was directed, and with other security agencies, we were able to combine and launch a serious manhunt for the perpetrators of this dastardly act. And we were able to, collectively with other security agencies, we were able to arrest 22 suspects. However, in the course of investigation, other names came up.
The police commissioner also responded to concerns in some quarters over alleged wrongful arrests.
All this one that you are bringing up, that some people are coming from this, no. We made the arrest, and those ones that we have picked from their houses, it was from at the scene. We were able to generate the names of some of the suspects, the mastermind, and we quickly went after them and picked them one after the other. So if we pick people from their houses, we are doing the right thing, because everything was based on information, and for the mere fact that they participate actively. And it will surprise you that those that even gave us the information, we are some of these suspects.
As the legal process unfolds, Adesina reaffirmed the security agency's commitment to safeguarding lives and ensuring peace across the state. In Plateau State, for News Central, Chizoba Anyuri.
Still on security, the Kano State Police Command says that it has arrested 98 suspects within the last 24 days. The State Commissioner of Police, Ibrahim Bakori, made this known to newsmen at the State Command headquarters in Kano, saying that the suspects arrested have been confirmed to be involved in 2021 cases bordering on armed robbery, thuggery, sale of illicit and banned substances, and theft. Bakori also announced the launch of Operation Kokonkura, which he says is currently being integrated into the command's operational strategy, which has recorded remarkable successes in the war against crime in the state.
22 tools operate solutions, 35 parcels, 1,123 wraps of substance suspected to be cannabis sativa. The new launch Operation Kukankura is being integrated into several robust operation strategy earlier adopted by the command, and that has been great impact in curbing crime in the state, including intelligence-led raid operations, visibility patrols, strengthening energy synergy with other security agencies, strategic communication, and robust community policy engagement with traditional rulers, religious leaders, members of the press, youth groups, NGOs, CSOs, community members, and other key stakeholders, etc.
Let's now talk about rebuilding Northeast Nigeria. The United Nations Children's Fund and World Food Programme have set aside a €20 million fund to build resilience and ensure food security for Borno and Yobe State communities in Northeast Nigeria. The United Nations agencies announced that the project targets 200,000 people across the region recovering from insurgency. News Central's Martrawa completes the report.
Years of conflict combined with escalating effects of climate change in northeast Nigeria have taken a devastating toll on livelihood opportunities, social cohesion, and the well-being of children and women.
We've learned from over the years, going to a decade now, 9 years, malnutrition levels beginning either May or June, the hospitals will be 200% overflowing. But this year, We came in with a preventive approach from February, March, within the first quarter, and we are seeing results.
This goes beyond strengthening food systems, promoting equitable access to basic services, and improving nutrition. It also fosters peaceful coexistence and stability.
Traditional leaders and representatives of both Borno and Yobe state government, as well as the United Nations Children's Fund and World Food Programme, brainstorm on resilience and peace building project in Nigeria's northeast region.
This 20 million euro, a very generous support from the federal government of Germany and KfW, will be used in 5 LGAs in both Borno and Yobe. As I'm standing in Borno now, so it is in 2 LGAs in Borno, Bama and Kondua. This is not a new program, it's continuation of the phase 1, where we are looking at resilience and social cohesion, but bringing in the basic services to the communities, and especially to the communities that are mostly deprived.
It's our role as WFP, as UNICEF, to make sure that they take advantage of this program so they can change their life. And that is possible. It's possible because it is aligned with the state government vision, and we get the support. So what else we can wait?
Despite the efforts of government authorities and security forces to restore stability, rebuilding trust and economic opportunities remain a gradual process. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Coming up on the news, Kenya's electoral commissioners sworn in ahead of 2027 polls. We'll tell you more and bring you the rest of the stories in a short while. Do stay with us. In the Horn of Africa nation, Kenya's electoral commissioners were sworn in on Friday following months of legal wrangling, paving the way for polls in 2027. The Independent Electoral Board of Commission, IEBC, plays a crucial role supervising elections, counting votes, and registering voters and candidates in the East African nation, where recent elections have all been contested. The appointment had been delayed following legal petitions from activists questioning the qualifications, integrity, relevance, and meritocracy of the candidates, according to the High Court ruling that dismissed their petition on Thursday. It comes as Kenya sees increasingly violent rallies against police brutality and corruption, with protesters calling for President William Ruto to serve only one term. Staying in Kenya, hundreds of mourners on Friday streamed into a field near Kariuki's home. A 22-year-old masked vendor who was shot at point-blank range by an officer during the rally against police brutality to witness his burial and vent their anger. He was declared brain dead after 2 weeks at Kenyatta National Hospital and died on June 30 around 3:15 p.m. An autopsy confirmed a single close-range gunshot caused fatal head trauma, with 4 bullet fragments lodged in his brain. 2 officers have been arrested, 1 charged with murder. Mourners are calling for justice and an end to police brutality.
My brother, your death has cared all of us. You are always there for the needed. No notice to help us in any way. Our meeting was complete with you. You knew what to do and did it. A lot of love. We loved you, all of us. The last 1 week of you staying in the hospital was the toughest for all of us. We fasted and prayed for miracles to happen, and we kept the faith. We were hopeful you would fully recover and be reunited with us, but God deemed it, and it has prepared for your departure.
Actually, Boniface Karaoke was one of my close friends that we used to work together. At that day when he was shot, we were with him early in the morning, and actually we were just selling masks. We had a conversation early in the morning without knowing that the last word that we chatted with him could be the last word in this world that we ever had with him.
Whoever did all this, let him actually not know any peace in this earth. We are crying tears of bitterness. We are not happy. It is not happy for us.
Away from that to this funding crisis story, new HIV infections in sub-Saharan Africa have dropped by 56%, thanks in large part to expanded treatment programs. South Africa, home to the world's largest antiretroviral therapy initiative, has played a major role in driving a 54% decline in HIV-related deaths since 2010. But those hard-won gains are now under serious threat. Sudden and severe cuts in international donor funding are causing major disruptions in global health systems. News Central's Bongani Siziba reports.
Since 2010, South Africa has made remarkable progress. HIV infections have dropped by more than 40%, and millions of lives have been saved through broader access to prevention and life-saving treatment.
We are the country most affected in the whole world. I don't like that tech, but it's there, it's a reality, it's living with us. And so at the moment, we are having 5.9 million people on ARVs. We're not very proud about being #1 in the world. And for that reason, we want to be proud to be #1 in fighting the disease, right, to reverse what has happened.
However, the fight is far from over. HIV remains one of the world's most pressing public health challenges.
Of course, as a set of people with HIV, we are worried. We were frustrated as well. We are worried, especially with the withdrawal of PEPFAR, because really this whole process could reverse the gains.
Are the most vulnerable, underscoring the urgent need for renewed global solidarity and support.
Over the past 13 years, we have been suffering with civil unrest despite the 14 years of celebration. As a result of this, high levels of humanitarian needs affect a large population, and also girls and young women particularly are vulnerable to HIV infections.
Recent funding cuts, particularly from major donors like USAID, are sending shockwaves through health sectors worldwide. These financial shortfalls threaten to undo years of progress and put countless lives at risk. Without sustained funding, health systems, especially across Africa, risk collapse, and previous gains could be swiftly erased.
I think when we're thinking about the impact of those funding cuts, including HIV, we must just remember that HIV isn't just a disease. It's a disease that in itself, if untreated, exposes individuals and populations to many other diseases. So it has a row of skittles effect.
The UNAIDS report urges governments to act fast by reallocating resources, reinforcing national health systems, and partnering with the private sector to plug critical funding gaps.
The report torches what is happening, what has happened this year, that the sudden withdrawal of the single biggest HIV donor combined with other cuts of aid from other governments that were happening more gradually is putting this progress at risk, particularly for the low-income, highly burdened countries.
The road ahead is tough, but it's not impossible. With committed leadership and collective action, African nations can hold the line and ensure that no one is left behind in the fight against HIV. In Johannesburg for News Central, Bongani Siziba.
We'll go on a break now on the news. When we return, we'll bring you business and sports. Do stay with us. In business, as part of efforts to strengthen Nigeria's consumer credit infrastructure, the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation, Creditcorp, has announced plans to link citizens' credit scores to their national identification numbers, a move aimed at building comprehensive credit profiles for every economically active Nigerian. News Central's business correspondent, Perpetua Fasomi Peter, explores the potential impact, opportunities, and challenges of this reform.
Government of Nigeria has set up the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation to encourage consumer spending among economically active Nigerians. But are the people for whom this particular policy is made aware of it and its possibilities? Let's find out. Have you heard about it before?
I never hear about it.
I don't hear it. I have no idea.
Most of the people you see abroad live on credit. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, they are living a good life. So if the federal government is looking at that, it's a good policy.
How can I even find out my records? How can I even, if I'm creditworthy, to be able to pay all these things?
So they are going to introduce the credit score and link it with your NIN. So for every time you want to do something like that, you check your NIN number, they can see your credit score, they can then tell if you are creditworthy or not. What do you think about that?
Well, that's fine. If it's doable and if it's visible in the near future, yes, something we can do.
Sadly, not many of them seem to be aware of this. But of course, they all recognize that the full implementation of this would mean a lot for them.
Linking Nigerians' credit scores to their national identification numbers creates new opportunities for a country long held back by a fragmented citizen database, one that has excluded many from formal credit and enabled loan evasion.
It's very easy for a customer to commit an offense, not pay back a loan from, to bank A, move on to bank B, and then just go around without being tracked. Now, this solves that problem. If you commit an offense somewhere, right, you see it on the NIN, right? So it's a big one. On the lender's end, it makes their job easier because now they don't have to look for data in other ecosystems, right?
Individual Nigerians must be uniquely identified, and how they do business, how their cash flows run, need to be understood by financial institutions. If they don't, they can't lend to that segment of the market.
While the initiative aims to consolidate credit information across all financial institutions into a centralized National Credit Bureau, concerns remain over potential loopholes and data privacy risks.
We already have that infrastructure to ensure that the things that could go wrong, right, can be easily controlled.
Cyber theft, cyber attacks will forever be there. But we've got to develop a method, a framework within which we counter that.
The federal government has shown clear intent to empower Nigerians and boost business ease through its latest reforms. Yet, genuine impact hinges entirely on effective implementation, which necessitates comprehensive education, diligent due process, impeccable data integrity, and full transparency. If these elements are firmly addressed, this initiative could mark a turning point for millions locked out of the credit system. In Lagos, for News Central, I am Perpetua Fasomi Peter.
And that's all on the news at this hour. Let's look at our top stories before we go. Aliko Dangote has cast doubt on the revival of Nigeria's state-owned refineries in Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna. Let's also tell you that wanted suspects in assault on Rivers local government administrator surrender to the police. Kenya's electoral commissioner sworn in ahead of 2027 polls. Well, don't forget that you can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. Watch us live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Arvo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Aliko Dangote.